7 o'clock this evening. Our final advertised meeting thus far of 2017. I'd like to welcome everybody to please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Epley, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Welcome to Borough Secretary for the roll call.
Mr. Crothermel.
Here.
Mr. Epley.
Present.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Nace.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Kirkhoff.
Here.
Ms. Young.
Here.
Mayor Capuano.
Here.
Solicitor Dissinger.
Here.
Engineer Aycock.
Here.
Okay, Kathy. A friendly reminder for anyone that may be in possession of electronic devices, phones, pages, etc., please place them on vibrator silent mode or turn them off if you so desire, so as not to interrupt the meeting. I do want to welcome everybody and thank you for being here and taking interest in your town. Item number 5 on the agenda. Before us, we have proposed minutes, draft minutes from November 21st, 2017, from our last regular Borough Council meeting. I've got a few items in the minutes. At the bottom of page 4, it indicates I made the motion to adopt Resolution 2017-7, the general fee schedule for the refuse collection. I don't believe that was me. You can just review the tape.
Okay.
I know I voted against it, so I don't think I made the motion. If I did, I didn't mean to.
Okay. Okay.
For that particular rule.
Yeah, I'll just check my notes. I could have just put them in.
And then on the last page, on page 6, at the top, second sentence, I asked for status report on the storm drain at High, and it should be either Martha.
Oh, it's
or
Martha.
Mary.
It's Martha.
And then under unfinished business, the stainless steel shutoffs, I don't believe were valves, I think they're electrical shutoffs.
Okay, so just shut-offs.
That'd be good for me.
Okay.
And I believe those, oh, I'm sorry, one more.
Yep.
The top of page 3. Request for a 5.6 mil fire tax. I don't believe it was, I think it was 0.56 or 0.6. Actually, I think it was 0.6.
Everybody.
What was the request? You recall?
I thought the request.
Okay.
Right.
His email, do you have
Oh,
his email?
yeah, I can look at it.
Okay. I know, 0.65. I know it wasn't
Okay.
5.6.
I don't know enough about that stuff.
And those are all the items I have.
Mr. President, I have one other one.
Mr. Ethel?
Page 4, under Council Committee Reports, Facilities and Fleet. And this is just for grammatical error. Mr. Ripley reported that the general review of the electrical system at the shop has not been completed as the personnel to do so are not available.
I circled that in this one, so I
Right, done.
take that.
That's all I have.
Anything else in the minutes? Any wish for action on the minutes? Motion to approve the minutes, right? Second. Motion by Mr. Crowthorne, second by Mr. Kirkhoff to approve the minutes as corrected. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next we have public comment. Let me get the clipboard, Mr. Hope. We have 5 members of the community signed in. No one has indicated they wish to speak. Has anyone changed their mind? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Move on then to item number 7, appointments, resignations, correspondence, proposals, and citizen action. The only item I have, just to make sure everyone received the newsletter, the Duncannon Dispatch, there were 2 typos on the back of the document. I brought to Chris's attention earlier tonight, the phone number for the borough office, and also it's Frank and not Fred Epley. So we talked about those earlier. Also, there was indication in the minutes that there would be some commentary about the Code Red system that did not appear in this. I expect that to be in the upcoming newsletters just for updated information on Code Red. Anything else from the floor on item number 7? Move on to general reports, the Borough Engineer, Ms. Aycock.
Hi. Good evening, everyone, and happy holidays. You have Greg's report in front of you. If there are any questions, I will try to give you an answer, or if not, get an answer for you.
Anything on the written report received from tonight? Anything else for us?
No, sir?
Vicki, could you perhaps give council, just because later on the agenda under utilities is the or for you to prepare to have bids for the CDGB well 7A and B drilling. Could you give them just a briefing on that so they know what that entails?
Well, not heading that project up, but yes, we have the bid documents together, and we'll be forwarding them to CBDG for their review and approval. We would be asking for authorization to bid the project to drill the wells. There's a drill plan together, and that's going to be submitted to PADEP and SRBC. So that's moving along.
And you'll see Greg has a timetable for that project in his report. So this is the first step, and it's important that we get this moving because the permitting process requires a lot of testing of the aquifer and testing of the well. So the first step is to get that drilled so that we can begin doing that testing to get the permitting done. So that's under utilities later in the agenda.
Vicki, are you aware of any update on the Stonewall Estates project in Penn Township?
No, I am not.
Okay. That's the last item on the
Right.
report. Okay.
They were at the JOIC meeting.
Anything reported there?
No timeline, they were just, we talked about that in here already, about the line that they wanna
Clark
line
Street,
the
right.
line on Clark Street. Nothing since that.
Okay, very good.
I actually have a question, Vicki. The retaining wall, it says the monitoring points are scheduled to be put in. Is that scheduled still for the end of December, or is it not done yet? Do you know?
That I do not know,
Okay.
but I can get an answer for you.
I was just wondering if
Yeah.
that was put in place.
To my knowledge, it has not been put in place yet.
What's that?
I don't believe it's been put in place yet.
Okay. It says late December, that's why I was like, it probably is input.
Anything else from the engineering firm? Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Move on to Public Works Operator Tessie, Mr. Hooker.
Good evening. Hopefully everybody has our water and wastewater reports. I will note quickly, the water loss is getting to our satisfactory number. We're at 28%. I attribute the big turnaround there as I am aware at least one meter was in backwards. So that was a metering issue. So as we continue to look at monthly meter reads, whatever, I'm thinking we're probably gonna be able to find more meter issues. So we're not using any more, or we're not producing any more water. So it's now locating where it's being unaccounted for, so.
What is generally your goal number there?
Under 20
That's what I thought. Okay.
is where the state is happy with us. I have questions regarding how we calculate that. The way that we calculate has been the way it's always been done, and I don't want to say that that's the right answer, but just to keep numbers the same, I personally have a problem because we tally this off of the numbers sold, which are the meters, and what the wells produce. My two problems are we have two large storage tanks that water sits in before, and in between it's produced, it sits in the standpipe, and it sits in the reservoir. So there is two vast globs of water that sit there until it goes through a meter and is sold again. I almost want to say you should remove those two and see what's produced, and then calculate it, but, because if you do that, our number is, we're down pretty low. If you look what's in holding to be used after it's produced, there's different ways of looking at it, and
But I would think that as long as they're not fluctuating tremendously in the level from month to month, they should be a constant. They shouldn't.
Well, they will fluctuate some though, won't they? Like, you should take into account the fluctuation. I just don't know how you.
But I
That's
think
why
that
we
would
just-
work out though.
yeah, continue doing the way it's been done with whatever's produced, and whatever gets sold, that's it. And we're not considering that there is,
As long as they're not leaking, eventually
Right.
the water in those devices is sold.
that's the way it's been viewed in the past. And I'm thinking, well, you got 600,000 gallons of water that's sitting waiting,
Right.
that's produced, but you're only utilizing So in my head, I still think that 28% is skewed. If you took out what's sitting waiting,
I would think that would only be
Would even be
skewed.
lower.
How do we calculate it exactly? Make sure I got it right in my head so I can think about it.
produced
Okay, so whatever we produce,
and sold. I am thinking that we ought to look at what is sitting in storage.
Well, so wouldn't that like the high, like they were what, 41% or something with the reservoir stuff? That would have been produced to fill the reservoir back up, but it would not
It's
have been
not sold.
used. Right, so,
But it's
But-
not unaccounted for, it's not lost water.
but it would have reported as that.
That's, I guess.
But we're not doing that every month, we're not filling the reservoir every month.
No, but those high numbers, you
Right.
know, we were thinking we still had a loss issue and we really didn't. It was catching up to fill up the reservoir.
Right.
And I guess
you know,
that's
that-
what I'm saying, this 28 even is high, but if I remove what's in storage, we're at 12%. And then I'm thinking, you know what I mean, so I still need verification
but
from.
you'd have to add back what was there to start.
Right,
Right.
yeah, so, but,
And
so
on
I'm
the
looking
months
at
where
these
it
numbers
starts
and
high and
watching them.
low,
Yeah,
you have to calculate the difference into that,
right,
if you know what that is, you know where the standpipe is, where the reservoir is.
that's correct, yeah. So I'm just saying, we are watching that, and in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I don't know if this is completely accurate. To me, it's not accurate because it's not lost water. It's water produced but not sold. So, you know, and I guess that's what I'm looking at, because the state looks at it as, what did you lose? I'm not saying we lost that, it just,
Well, like I said, if every month you started with an empty reservoir or an empty standpipe,
Right.
I would agree with you, but we don't.
right, it has some water that's in storage.
Right.
So, yeah, just something worthy of talking about that. I don't see concerns, but something that might be addressed. Treatment plant is okay. We talked last month about getting vertical actuator lift rods. I did acquire pricing from Aqua Aerobics. I think, Chris, did you receive that? You know, if the guys ordered it, we have the correct stuff priced out. It's to be
The one
done.
you sent me was for the actuators.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep,
that's been ordered.
so
Well,
that's.
we did what their instructions were, was to fax it back to them confirmed, so.
Yep, yep, so that's on order. Everything's okay now. We have been getting some weird alarms. It states that things aren't opening and closing properly, but they're functioning, so it's a timing issue. Things do open, things do close, but it's not in any set, so it's almost a program. So we've been in contact with Aqua. They are looking at it remotely from their site. We're waiting on feedback from them as to, do they need to do something, do they need to come in, do we need, so I'm waiting on answers there, but other than that, knock on wood, it's been fairly quiet.
Never say the Q word.
Well, fairly.
Okay, just knocked on vinyl covered metal.
I got shocked. Did you see
Modern
it?
druids.
Anything else?
No questions?
Anything for Betsy? All right, thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
We then have the solicitor, Mr. Dissing.
Good evening. A couple of items, unusually. First of all, in regard to the conservation easement, I've reviewed and approved the final draft of the conservation easement and the option. We have caused the title to the property to be searched. What I have in my hand here is the 93-page title report with all of the, they're mostly easements that we're looking at. And I don't see, the chain of title looks good, and I'm not seeing any big deal mortgages or liens, okay? And that's what I was concerned about. It just stuck in my mind that at some point somebody had to have mortgaged the place, you know? And then, of course, I got excited when I ran across a deed from the borough to the borough authority for the tract in question, but then we talked ourselves into that a few days later the borough authority transferred it back to the borough for some peculiar reason that I didn't understand. But anyway, it's fine. The chain of titles, very good. I have sent this off to the attorney for the conservation easement for people, Nature Conservancy. What we intend to do and what I have proposed to do is that each and every one of these, what they call exceptions, and the reporting of these various liens, there's one to the United States government for the Appalachian Trail. There's Texas Eastern Pipeline, these sorts of things. Are proposed that these be listed as exceptions and acceptable exceptions to us delivering free and marketable title. I have full expectation that will be approved. We will not run into any particular difficulty, but I can't promise that. They have to be reviewed by them. Given the acceptance of those exceptions, then this would set the stage for the purchase of title insurance by the Nature Conservancy. By the way, the price tag for that's $30,000 for that insurance they're paying. So that's well on its way. I think we're wrapping it up. I have a copy of the title report, which I'll give to you here if anybody wants to peruse it. You're welcome to. It includes handwritten deeds from the 1800s, which are utterly illegible. Now, we've taken action on that. I don't believe we need to take any further action. It's a matter of when we have the documents happy, we'll collect signatures and it'll be in place. I am informed that the grant has been received and this thing should move along pretty quickly. The stretched out period will not be. Are there any questions about that? I think we're in good shape. Okay. The electrical pole crash, one of your questions. We pursued that. I was relying on the criminal case, the DUI case, to make collection of our funds as part of the restitution in the case. Perry County Probation and Parole was unable to get any money out of them in any way, even with the threat of jail. And they actually have discharged him from probation and parole, so we're going to have to pursue some other line of action against someone who has deeper pockets than the gentleman in question.
Was there auto insurance?
Not that would cover. That's the problem. I'm trying to get somebody to force someone. We've made some threats and been laughed at and said, well, so it's not over, but we're kind of hitting a bit of a stone wall. The unclaimed property investigation, we have done significant computer searches of the Treasury Department site in regard to unclaimed property, searching both Duncannon, Borough of Duncannon, Treasurer, Municipality of Duncannon, and have found nothing other than a life insurance unclaimed that the borough is supposed to be the beneficiary of. We'll send that information along. I have all the information from your prior manager, which consists of one letter. I have had a conversation with the prior solicitor, but I have now sent a demand letter off to the prior solicitor for specific information, including a claim number. They claim that they have submitted a claim. I don't have that number and I can't get to it without it, but also for any information that would help me get to where this unclaimed property is. I think I understand what it is. I just don't understand where it ended up and how it's cataloged, if you will. So that's being worked on actively, if somewhat frustratingly, because it has to do with computers. So I have had people in the office who understand computers a little better doing some of these things, but we are pursuing it, and it's worth looking at. It's $5,000 that we believe, a little over $5,000. So we can,
I heard at one point as high as 7, but my concern was that it's been ongoing for at least a decade.
yeah.
And, the solicitor, that was a solicitor at the time, was with a different firm. She had her own firm, and then her second owned firm during that time period. She's no longer here. I just don't want that to get lost. That's
Absolutely.
on the document.
We are working on it, and I, with permission of council, I'll endeavor, even after you're off council, to keep you informed of where we're at, unless someone has an objection with that. Okay, so I'll
Thank you.
make that pledge to you. AMP of Ohio, I was asked to review a request from AMP. These are the folks who provide your electrical power for this, basically a authorization for them to act as our agent in securing things. I'm recommending that this be approved. What was buzzing around in my mind is we're kind of looking for a way to maybe get out of that deal, and was considering whether, this might give us, if we don't execute this, maybe it will give us a way in. But when reviewing the document itself, it says, principal, that's us, may terminate this declaration by providing at least 30 days prior written notice to AMP. So actually, by entering into this, it may be in a stronger position than to then terminate this and get back at. And what I would recommend, if you are in fact desirous of doing that, you need to have me review the MSA, the master agreement, if you will, and then. But I would recommend that this be approved and entered into.
I think, Kathy, I don't know if you can check the minutes. I think we approved it subject to your approval.
Okay, very good. So I give my approval, and that's what I recommend, okay? The only other thing I had was, at some point, it had come up a concern about properties that were fire losses, and that the insurance being paid, but then the insurance money not being used to fix up and restore the property, okay? I have two. One is from the Borough Associations. The other is a ordinance that I did for Juniata Township. But it basically allows us to say to the insurance company, we get to hold some of the money to make sure that this happens. Okay, it does work. The insurance companies are required to do that. Otherwise, they'll be responsible to us. They don't like doing it. They really don't like doing it. And of course, the folks who sustain a fire loss don't like us holding on to their money. But we're not taking it. We're just making sure that it's spent to restore at least.
It's very similar to a floodplain.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I have these two. I haven't prepared an ordinance for you, but I have printed off these. I'll give them to you, and maybe you can send them off to the proper
Scan them and
committee.
send
And
them to everybody.
if anybody wants to talk about it, well, I'll make myself available.
So is it a percentage of the claim that they,
Yeah, it's $2,000 for every. Back here.
sorry,
If the loss exceeds $7,500, then we get $2,000 for each 15,000
Of
of
damage.
claim. And that's set by law. It's a rather screwy insurance law thing, kind of complicated and hard to deal with, but surprisingly works. So you might want to take a look at it, that's all. Because, it is something that very well will come up.
And there's been discussion about the property on Ann Street from last January that sustained damage and has still not been repaired. Supposedly the owner is out of state, received the insurance funds, and they've not been reinvested in the property.
All right. And it's more of a problem in a borough than in a less densely populated area like Juniata Township. But nevertheless, that's what happened that prompted this. House burned down, people took the money, left, quit paying taxes, left it sit there as so this would at least give you something to be able to secure the property and make it safe, if not pretty. So
Going back to the AMP of Ohio, it looks like the motion was to forward that agreement to the solicitor for review, not to accept it subject to.
Okay, then I'd
review.
recommend it be.
So we need to take action if that's desired.
That's all I have.
Is that the desired?
I
Is that a motion, Mr. Williams?
Yes, it is. I'll second it. Just was looking for the right word.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Young, to adopt the, is that an agreement?
Hold on.
Say the right stuff.
Designation of AMP as agent, so it's a
The designation
designation.
of AMP as agent for the purpose of the electrical power purchase, as having been reviewed by the solicitor. Is there any question on the motion or further discussion on the action? All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Dissinger. Anything for the solicitor? Okay. Move on then, not to the fire chief. Does anyone have anything from the fire department? You may come in later. Go to the mayor, Mr. Capelwine.
You guys have a resolution 2017-8. There's a couple of changes that I'd like to make to it. The third paragraph, the third line where it says select a student, I want to change that to students, because you can have more than one. We also want to change it to a calendar year versus a school year. Number 2, the term of the office shall be during the calendar year, so it'd be for the calendar year 18. Chris did make the change already on mine and for Kathy's. Number 4, the junior council person shall be a borough resident, a middle school, high school, or college student. That's everything on that resolution.
Is there any wish for action on resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution 2017-8 with the corrections.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Kirkhoff, to adopt resolution number 2017-8, a resolution of the Borough of Duncannon authorizing participation in the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs Junior Council Person Program. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Then I do have 2 people to recommend for junior council, Elizabeth Meisner, 727 North High Street, and Sophia Capuano, 717 North High Street. I have talked to both of them, talked to the parents. I have the commitment for the calendar year on what the expectations are. We've covered it pretty in-depthly, so I'm pretty confident that these 2 will serve well.
Motion to accept both of them as junior council members.
Second.
Can we go with Mr. Cromwell?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Cromwell.
Discussion.
What's that?
Discussion.
Get that. To appoint Elizabeth Meisner and Sophia Capuano for the calendar year 2018 as our junior council members. Any further discussion?
Do you need people from the table to serve as,
Mentors.
that?
Yes. When I talked to both, they both have ideas of what they would like to do, but because they are in school and have activities, we wanted to wait until the organizational meeting to see if committees were going to change. So, and because we wanted to make sure that it worked in their time frame, that they could attend as much as possible. The Tuesday night council meetings were fine. It was the committee meetings on certain nights could be difficult. So they are gonna both attend and get sworn in on January 2nd. So if we change then, and I would just hope if any of you want to mentor, please let me know. This way I know you guys wanna do it.
We have opportunity for the incoming council members too. If they
Absolutely.
desire to do so.
Do they have to have one mentor, or can they just, is it required? I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember.
It does say they can have one, but a lot of it is kind of open to us doing what we would like to do within it. Again, Sophia attends a lot of things already, so just because I think that the more that they can attend, the better.
Agreed, yep.
I'll ask you, should those individuals serving as mentors have their child abuse and state police
Yes,
clearances?
that's exactly what was going through my mind.
Okay. Okay.
Any further discussion? Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Crawford, to appoint Elizabeth Meisner and Sophia Capuana for the calendar year 2018 as our junior council persons. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything for the mayor?
Yeah, close unfortunately.
Also under the mayor's report, I have the code enforcement report. Mr. Clace has submitted a written report for the month of November. Are there any questions or comment, feedback for Mr. Clace? Move on to the secretary's report, Ms. Beck.
Well, I'm going to say something this time.
Outstanding.
We've all seen Mario's building, the pictures of it before, and he's been sending me updates all the time. If you haven't had a chance to go around the back and take a look, the work crew said, get back there, he's doing a fantastic job.
He has lights up so you can see it now.
Yeah,
can see it on
so if you see him, tell him. He would appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
that's all I have to say.
Anything for the
It's
secretary?
your best report of the year.
Thank you.
Move on to the manager, Mr. Corbin.
The only thing that I have that's not in my written report, just if anybody saw the borough crews working out just past the subway, we had a small boil water advisory that was not the borough's fault for this time. The fella that owns the campground out there, Riverfront Campground, was doing some work in his campground with his backhoe, broke one of his own pipes, and so we had to shut off water to the campground. And then there's those two houses that are right there that are on that same valve. So we do have a boil water advisory in effect for those two houses. Bessie did the first test. We also replaced, we had a bad valve right at the campground. So as we've been trying to do with the other projects, we replaced that while we had it shut off. But anyhow, the two houses and the campground are on the boil water advisory. We had the first test done this afternoon, while the second one done tomorrow morning. They'll go to the lab, and that should be lifted the following day. Nothing major involved with it. DEP, all their notifications and everything, and so like I say, it was just a situation where it was caused by the customer knocking his own pipe, not anything bad with the borough system. So
Anything else? Are there any action items that aren't otherwise in the agenda?
not in my report. No, everything's in your agenda, and the only things that are not in the report are the items under Finance and Administration for the release of the fire company and the EMS appropriations, their final payments for the month,
For the year.
or for the year, I'm sorry, yes.
Anything for the manager? Thank you, Mr. Corbin. Move on to item number 9 on the agenda, approval of the treasurer's report. We have before us the weekly banking review dated November 30th, 2017. Statement of revenues and expenditures, and there's also a report on the certificates of deposit. Any questions for the finance director or wish for action on these documents?
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit.
Motion by Ms. Young and second by Mr. Crothermel to approve the treasurer's report for the weekly banking review subject to audit. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the ratification and approval of bills. We have the selective check register before us with the bills to be paid and the bills having been paid.
Motion to ratify and approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Crothermel, second by Ms. Young to approve and ratify the bills as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Standing council committees, first Facilities and Fleet, Mr. Epley.
I have nothing to report, and we have our fleet facilities meeting coming up this Thursday. I have nothing for it. Mr. Williams has nothing for it. Does anybody else have anything for the fleet facilities committee?
I won't be in town, so I've got nothing out here.
Well, then I'm thinking that I cancel it.
Very good. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Eckley. Anything for facilities and fleet? Move on to finance, administration, communication, Ms. Young.
Okay, here we go. All right, so everyone has a copy of the proposed 2018 budget summary as adjusted from 12/7/17. This was taking into account the changes that were made at the last meeting. So I would like to, wait, I have to do this in 5 separate motions. I move to adopt the 2018 budget as advertised.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Kirkhoff to approve the 2018 budget as advertised. Any further discussion? I'd like to do this as a roll call.
Okay. It's fine. I'll find it. Okay. Mr. Crothermel.
Yes.
Mr. Epley.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Kirkhoff.
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Mr. Nace.
No. 6-1 motion carries. Back to Ms. Young.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 409 of 2017, setting the 2018 tax rate.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Williams to adopt ordinance number 409 of 2017, adopting the 2018 tax millage tax rate. Any further discussion? I'd like to also do a roll call here.
Okay, just give me a second. This is 409, right?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Crothermel.
Yes.
Mr. Epley.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Kirkhoff.
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Mr. Nace.
No. 6-1 motion carries. Ms. Young.
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 410 of 2017, setting the sewer rate.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Kirkhoff to adopt ordinance number 410 of 2017, setting the sewer rate beginning in 2018. Any further discussion? All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Young.
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 411 of 2017, setting the water rate.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Kirkhoff to adopt ordinance number 411 of 2017, adopting the 2018 water rate for the borough. Any further discussion? All those in favor give their consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Young.
I would like to make a motion to advertise the reorganization meeting, which would be held on Tuesday, January 2nd at 2018 at 7 p.m.
Second. Motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Crothermel to advertise the 2018 reorganization meeting as Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018 at 7 p.m.
Would that also be advertised to include any other business to come before the council? Okay.
Your second, sir. Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Crofthorne to advertise the reorganization meeting for the purpose of reorganization and any other business that may come before council, Tuesday, the 2nd of January 2018 at 7 p.m. Any further discussion? All in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to advertise the January committee meetings, keeping the month of January at the same dates and times that past this year's committee meetings have been.
With the exception of public safety would be the second Monday. I don't anticipate any business, they'll probably be canceled anyway,
Well, wait, there's no second, so I
but
can't
they
discuss
were,
it.
Second,
they were always shifted for holidays previously, but I just wanna make
Yeah,
sure,
we would
if we're doing
routinely
one
do that.
month, I don't want it to get screwed up.
Gotcha.
so as to say, yours is just a routine shift.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there will be an opportunity now for whoever's on those committees to look at dates and times and see what fits best for them. Then we would be able to advertise an annual schedule for February through December.
In fact, are you okay with just leaving that off?
In my opinion, yeah.
Okay.
I was,
don't-
well, I thought that's what you were
I
gonna
don't foresee
say, and
there
then
being
you,
any business. Just take public safety off.
I
Okay.
thought that's what you were gonna say, and then I,
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Kirkhoff to advertise the January 2018 committee meeting schedule with the exception of public safety. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Do we need a date, time to do that?
Well, we need to find out when it's available.
All right, I would like to make a motion to, this is the Christie Show. I would like to make a motion to authorize staff to release the 2017 final quarter appropriation to the Duncannon Fire Company in the amount of $6,250.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Crofthorne to release the final quarter 2017 payment to the Duncannon Borough Company in the amount of $6,250. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to make a motion to authorize staff to release the second half of the borough's 2017 appropriation to the Duncannon Emergency Medical Services in the amount of $5,000.
second.
Normally I have time to write the names. You said it's five names.
Correct.
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Kirkhoff to release the second appropriation of 2017 to Duncannon Emergency Medical Services in the amount of $5,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, Chrissy, well, where we're at that, do we wanna figure out how we wanna do that next year at the next finance committee meeting? Whether EMS wants quarterly, 2 sets, and whether the fire company wants quarterly, or do we wanna push that to the next finance committee meeting? That's
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, I don't know if this goes under new business or finance, so we'll do it now. I would like to make a motion to reimburse our new tax collector, Molly Capuana, for her 2-day training hub for tax collector qualification in the amount of $250.
Second.
Being that she's not in office yet, is that appropriate?
It's fine, but you have to take public comments. It's on the agenda, you have to take public comments.
On.
On that
This
motion.
motion's on the agenda.
Very good. Is there any public comment?
Come on, Sophia, say something.
Is there any further
Christie.
question, or everyone understand what the motion
Yes,
is?
$250.
Motion by Ms. Young, second by Mr. Crofthorne to reimburse the tax collector-elect, Molly Capuana, the amount of $250 for, I'm sorry, what was that?
It is municipal tax collector qualification. I don't know, she might be able to use a weapon after this too, I'm not sure.
She actually has her care.
Any further discussion?
I'm very nice to her.
All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I believe I'm done for the moment.
Anything else for Finance Administration Communication? Thank you, Christie. Move on to Parks and Recreation, Mr. Williams.
Everything's set for the sled drop, except for I need approval for several expenditures for the sled drop. Number one, I need approval for a $350 payment to our DJ, Dan Copins. Is that right, Copins?
Coppins.
Coppins. That's a $350 payment to him and check, then I'll give it to him that same night. So it can be written out at any time.
Second. Do you want to do it as 3 motions?
I can put it all in one if you want to do it that way. I have no problems with that.
Why don't we do them separately, just
Okay.
start that.
That's fine.
It's clear. Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Kirkhoff to pay $350 for the DJ service to Dan Coppins for New Year's Eve. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Let's do a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Crothermouth,
No.
Mr. Epley,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Kirkhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Nace.
Yes. 6-1, motion carries. Mr. Williams.
Next one would be a payment. I need a check to the Duncannon Fire Company for $100 for supplies that they pick up for the sled drop.
I'll second that one. Any further discussion? Motion by Mr. Williams, second, I've done the second, to allocate $100 to Duncannon Fire Company for supplies. All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I would like to, and we've discussed this, the rec board has discussed all this prior to this, $100 donation to the Boy Scouts from the rec board for their services when they do our campfire with the marshmallows and so forth.
Is that for New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve, yeah.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Kirkhoff to allocate $100 for the Duncannon Boy Scout Troop 64 for the services provided for the New Year's Eve celebration. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The other thing I have, Chris, can we get that put in the Duncannon record, the sled drop advertisement, the flyer thing?
I don't have the flyer, but if you give me the flyer,
Yeah,
or,
I will.
yeah.
I will do it. Thank you. And the rec board has decided that there's no meeting this month since we'll be in between holidays. And everything's a go for sled drop.
Very good. Anything else?
That's it as right now.
Anything from Mr. Williams on the Parks and Recreation?
I just wanted to thank you guys for Winterfest. It was a phenomenal turnout. There were a lot of people. Yeah, I
Ran out of cookies pretty quick at my table.
Oh, yeah. You
Start baking, Adams.
And marshmallows too, because I didn't put a limit on the marshmallows, and some kids just got cups and cups of marshmallows. Merry Christmas.
They went home with their parents, so they
Yeah.
didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
There's a rash of diabetes.
But yeah, just to give you an example, I was at the Coves on tree lighting on Saturday, and not to kind of bash Penn Township, but they literally had 10 people there. I mean, there just wasn't that many people, so it tells you that the rec board really did a good job with getting the advertising out and getting people there, and I mean, it was very good.
And just to kind of,
Thank you, Kathy.
yeah, I was gonna say, put it out there was,
And Chris. They went out of their way.
some people did not come through with their commitments, and last minute, we had to reach out and get some help, and it was appreciated.
Yes, it was. Very much so.
Anything else?
That's it. And then Chris, actually, I want to thank Chris too, him and Kathy again. Bailed me out on a mistake I made for New Year's Eve. I totally forgot about ordering wooden nickels. But they came through, the nickels are
There was a member from the community
Get the card.
that actually scheduled their vacation to be home in time. They were going to Vegas and to be home in time to get their wooden nickel. And when I told them there weren't going to be wooden nickels, I also had to give them your address.
That's fine. I will take blame for whatever.
And he happens to be one of the guys we turned water off for today, so he's probably pretty bent.
Jeff said he would have bailed me out. He would have sat and hand carved one.
Just one. Limited edition.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Anything from Mr. Williams on the Parks and Recreation? All right, very good, thank you, Roger. Personnel, Legal, and IT, we did meet this evening as scheduled. I don't believe there's anything,
Just the one thing, authorization to advertise a special meeting of the committee to be arranged next week. We don't have a date yet till we check with the vendors. The idea is we're proceeding with the EIP second round grant for the IT project, and we're down to 2 finalist vendors, and we want to bring them in to be interviewed by council, by the committee, to make a recommendation. And because of our constant concerns that our computers won't even start up in the morning, we'd like to get it moving. So the idea is for the 2 holdover members of the committee, and it will be advertised and open to the public, to meet with them next week between the holidays, in hopes that we can have a recommendation and possibly take action at the reorg meeting instead of waiting till the end of January. So that's the reason for having a special meeting of that committee,
Of the committee or of council?
of the committee.
Okay. I'll motion.
there's a motion.
Second. Give it to Chris.
Where the motions were going.
We have a motion by Ms. Young and a second by Mr. Adams to advertise a special meeting of the holdover members of the Personnel, Legal, and IT Committee at a time that can be set with the vendors for.
It's of the whole committee. You're welcome to attend, sir, even though you won't have another meeting after that. You're still a member of the committee.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
And then it would be a public meeting, so those that are elected could attend to get the information. Okay.
All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd also like to make a motion to authorize the borough manager to hire an office temporary person not to exceed $12 an hour if necessary.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Young, a second by Mr. Adams, to authorize the manager to advertise for temporary employment not to exceed $12 per hour for purposes of office staff. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can I have a question on IT? Can we get copies, those of us that won't be there, just copies
Yes.
of the bids? Okay, I just haven't seen them yet, so I wanted to.
No, we're gonna make copies for everybody and get them out ahead so you have them, and so the committee has them for evaluation at the meeting as well, so.
I assumed that that was the case.
Anything else for personnel, legal, and IT? We'll move on to public safety, Mr. Crawford.
Nothing to report.
Anything for public safety? Utility streets infrastructure, Mr. Kirkhoff.
Yeah, let's start with the authorization to bid new well.
Is that a motion?
It will be a new motion.
Okay.
I want a motion that we authorize the borough's engineers to proceed with the advertising for the bid for the new well.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirkhoff, second by Ms. Young, to authorize the engineering firm to advertise bids for the new well, consistent with the CDBG project. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's the only thing we have. Chris, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Not tonight.
I didn't think we have anything really for this.
Anything for utility street infrastructure?
I have one thing, Mr. President. I'd like to thank everybody that had anything to do with purchasing ordering or erecting street signs. The street corner of Chestnut and Church Street is about the first time it's been named in probably 50-plus years.
Very good.
You know how to get to your garage now, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Just one question, is there any update on the project, is it Mary or Martha and High? The storm sewer.
No, because Mike was out 2 weeks for hunting season and then playing catch-up since he's been back, so I haven't had a chance to review it, but I think it's gonna be something in
The update
the
said nothing's
spring.
gotten done with it yet, because we had staff out of the office. We did talk about it at our meeting, but we were all there, but, yeah, nothing done with that yet.
Still on the radar.
Yeah, still on the radar, still, yep, it was on our agenda.
Very good. Anything else for utility, streets, and infrastructure for Mr. Kirkhoff? Move on to revitalization development, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, I've got two things. Number one here, I'm sure everyone remembers Mr. Rosen came in concerned about the buzzards roosting in his tower. So our committee kind of took a hold of that one and asked Mr. Cordy down there to look into any kind of solutions we can have because they're a federally protected bird and we cannot kill them or harm them in any way. So he reached out to the Department of Agriculture, found out about a division called the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services. They have a solution. They produced a cost, and at our last committee meeting, we asked Chris again to reach out to Mr. Rosen to see if he would share some of the cost with us, because the primary problem is the tower on his property, and he offered to contribute $150 and allow us access to the tower to hang these effigies up, which are basically just pretend dead buzzards that will scare them away. The other part is this shooting off projectiles to scare the buzzards away, just harassing them, basically making it uncomfortable for them. As I understand it, these gentlemen will come in and train our borough members how to properly do this, or guys.
It's not actually projectiles, if I understand.
That's what they call it.
Yeah, it's not.
They have two kinds. One are just a bang, and others are kind of similar to a bottle rocket, is the way they would describe the whistle and the pop. So
We have a pretty expansive ordinance about projectiles, and we can't shoot them with air or compressed air or, gunpowder or anything like that. Is there any issue with the boroughs doing it, violating their own ordinance?
Oh, yeah.
Codes, right, that's what, fine.
I'm not familiar with your ordinance, but
It's very expansive, like it even prohibits things that are fired with a spring.
we can take a look at it and make sure we're okay.
yeah, we'll have to review that.
Okay, so as far as if I would make the motion per your review, it would still be okay if you come back and say yes or no?
Yep.
Okay. So, and another concern is that this is now a spreading problem. The buzzards are ripping people's roofs up, so we kind of just want to get them out of town. So even if the projectile idea fails, we can still attempt with hanging the dead birds, and I'll go down there and swing a bat around with my son and accidentally hit some balls that way, and we'll see if that helps. So I would like to make a motion to authorize the staff to enter into an agreement with the USDA for a buzzard control program at a cost not to exceed $462.70, subject to the solicitor's review of the agreement.
I was given the agreement and it is acceptable.
Well, let's
So then now you need to look at
include the review of the
review of the
ordinance as well,
ordinance.
so we make sure we're in compliance.
And the review of the ordinance to see if it,
My second
That's what it is. I think you said 70 cents?
Yeah.
It says 80 cents in the agreement?
oh, my bad, yes, you are correct, sir.
Do we want to have some qualifier for the contributed funds, or should that not be?
I don't think you can, because it's not necessarily an obligation.
I think that's kind of between us and Mr. Rosen. This is between us and the
USDA.
Department of Agriculture.
I mean, anybody can give us cash.
I just,
reimbursing us
did
for
we want to
expenses.
take this until we receive that? I didn't know how we wanted to do that.
I don't think so.
Nancy might collect some money for that.
Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Crowthermel, to enter into the cooperative service agreement between the borough and the United States Department of Agriculture Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services, for the amount of $462.80 for the purpose of addressing the flying animals at the slip and elsewhere. Any further, and also subject to, you said you already did review it.
I did. I have one question. If we enter into it, we're certifying we're free of delinquent federal debt. Do we give the feds any money?
Not that we know of.
Okay, that's fine.
Nobody's come busting kneecaps, so I think we're all right.
However,
Yes, I approve the form of the grant.
Include that tax enforcement shop stuff.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
just one quick thing, like I said, if it's determined that we cannot use these projectiles, we'll still move forward with just the dead birds.
If we find that that will be effective, if they tell us that hanging the bird without the harassment won't work,
Right, yeah.
there's no sense in wasting money on the bird.
There was an allowance a few years ago for a property owner to, I don't say violate that ordinance, but circumvent that ordinance for the removal of some animals on his property. The council approved that.
Okay. I'll take a look at your ordinance and maybe,
I mean,
if we need to do
I'm
that.
kind of the opinion the ordinance should go away, but you know, I hate for this project to not happen because we have our own stupid ordinance in place.
And we're not gonna proceed with any of it until spring anyhow, so we have plenty of time to figure that out and straighten that out, whatever needs to be
Yeah,
done.
'cause like it says in his report, if we put anything up now, the winter will destroy it, so
Right.
we wanna wait until.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Adams.
And then last thing, I have a special events permit here for Perry County Road Runners Club, the last mile race, which will be, last year there was some concern from borough residents on the effects that this race had on the square. So we had them fill out a permit here, putting some restrictions on what they can do and can't do. I would like to get it approved for them.
Nice to see you.
That, since it's.
Is it the same thing they've been doing for many, many years?
Yeah,
They're
so
35
yeah,
years.
this
For
year-
the last 50 years.
But I don't think they got a permit last year.
They
I
did
don't-
not, but
yeah.
they had to this year.
There was a new organizer last year, is what I was told. This lady Gloria Deal is the organizer of it now, and she did not realize it. And because of the dust up over the parking and so forth, and us not being aware last year, I reached out to them and asked her if she would fill out the permit. Now, the only thing that is kind of an outstanding thing is that we usually ask them to have a certificate of insurance that names us as an also insured. And she gave me a copy of an email saying that they do have insurance, but she didn't know how to get the certificate. I did find the information on their they're part of the Roadrunners Club of America. I found the information on the Roadrunners site and sent that to her. Also printed out a copy and gave it to Dave Keene because this is in conjunction with the fire company. So hopefully she'll get that and get that taken care of. It's up to council and the solicitor if they don't have that certificate, but you know how we want to handle that.
So is the application joint with the fire company?
The applicant only says Perry County Road Runners Club. There's an asterisk here under the affected areas parade route that says event benefits fire company.
Oh, so they're a beneficiary, not a partner.
Right.
Okay,
According to
because that would have been an easy fix.
I think the certificate of insurance should be an easy thing to get. If they've got insurance, it's
It
just
should be, but,
adding us as additionally insured for that event.
and I'll follow up with her again, and if I have to walk her through it, I'll forget it.
Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Crothermel to approve the Prater special events permit for the last mile race on Saturday, December 30th, 2017. Any further discussion? All those in favor give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Sure.
And I did tell her that we're asking them to make an announcement to the runners that there will be aggressive enforcement of the 2-hour limit of parking in the square. Now, I have not had a chance to check with Tony to make sure he'll be available that Saturday morning, but we will try to do everything we can to keep them from parking up the square so that we don't have business complaining about it.
Anything else, Mr. Adams?
Just one more thing. I have been talking back and forth. I don't know if people have heard, but there's going to be potentially a business going into the square, a coffee shop. And I reached out to them as, chair of the Revitalization Development Committee. and what they're gonna give me a tentative timeline sometime in the second, third week of January on what their plans are. And once they have their soft opening, after that, we're gonna work with them to do a grand opening, make an event out of it. Just kind of make a big deal about it, because, you know, it's a good thing having a business come into the borough, so. Just wanted to put that out there, and that's all I got.
Excellent. Not to counter that, but I was told, and I haven't heard anything official, I don't know if anyone else has, that the pretzel store on the square is planning to close.
I did hear about that, and I heard why, and it's unfortunate, but I think we'll be okay.
Anything else for revitalization development?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? The only item I have was, I asked last month if the council could consider some kind of recognition of Mr. Conrad, the former mayor, and I suggested, you know, a street renaming, a facility renaming, something like that in his honor. Has anyone given that any thought or any suggestion?
What's the street that cuts back his house? It's not Cherry. Green Street.
My thought was Hickory, because there are no addresses, there's no residents on Hickory, there
So
are
what's
addresses
back
on
then?
Green.
So I was gonna ask if Green had any
There's at least one Green Street address,
Yeah, with fire and,
what used to be Ms. Long's house.
Oh, the trailer.
It's an open modular.
oh yeah.
I don't know that they might be, I don't know if they're actually green.
I just
It
assumed
should
because
be.
they face green.
It
I know
faces,
they
yeah.
do, I'm thinking they might be,
Go on Market Street address.
I think they're a Market Street address.
I think it is in the book.
I do.
As Market Street.
Now, he was so passionate about the parks. Is there anything in our parks that, a facility that we could,
I think they're both named already.
the parks are, but I
Yeah.
didn't know, like the bridge or the band shell or.
Yeah,
Pavilion.
we don't have like a baseball.
We'll put that new pavilion up down the lower park, we'll name it after him.
Maybe, Chris, would your committee want to come up with a recommendation for January?
Yeah, absolutely.
Has nothing to do with birds, but.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You sure you don't got anything about pigeons, ducks, swans?
Jack Conrad baby there.
Yeah, I'll definitely have that in my next committee.
I
Maybe
won't be
the
able to
stand
vote
play
January
factory.
unless something really weird happens, but I'd love to see that move forward, so.
Absolutely.
Anything else under unfinished business? Any new business?
Mayor?
Yep, I do have something.
Mr. Castellano.
So, Mr. Epley, Certificate of Appreciation. I want to present this to you tonight in recognition of more than 10 years of service to the Borough of Duncannon and its citizens as a member of Borough Council. So presented today. I was going to present it at Fleet Facilities, but you canceled it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Jim, after me, we'll get.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Anything else under new business?
ironically, yes. This goes to the mayor show versus the Christie show. So for Craig, a certificate of appreciation in recognition of more than 13 years of service to the Borough of Duncannon and its citizens as mayor and as a member of Borough Council. Today, 19th.
Anything else under new business?
Christie, anything?
No, I'm good.
Our next meeting, or the Borough Council's next meeting, will be Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018 at 7 o'clock for reorganization and any other business that comes before the council. The next regular council meeting will be Tuesday, January 16th at 7 p.m. Both are here. Just for a moment, because we might make this meeting in less than an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, some kind of record.
I want to thank everybody that's here tonight, and certainly those who've been here through the years. I came into this, well, not this from the public, as the appointed mayor in 2004, with an appointed agenda that I quickly learned was not my agenda, and it's been a very interesting ride. I have had a fair number of good experiences. I've had a lot of bad experiences, and I think the borough has a lot of work to do. So those coming forth, those remaining, and those certainly in the community that have any vested interest in this community need to step up. So I wish you well, and I hope that things continue in a positive direction. I'll offer that I voted no tonight on the budget and the tax ordinance for the simple reason that I don't think we should be, again, raising taxes if we're still taking payment at the state. We did advance an ordinance for public comment and for consideration a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, I guess, and it failed. But I firmly believe that as long as the piddly $150 before taxes each month, when you add that up over the year, it ends up being $14,400. That would have done some more work in the parks. That would have allocated another $5,000 or more for the fire company, and we wouldn't have to raise taxes even that small amount. So that was my reason for voting no on those two items. I think that we've got some good people in place. I hope that some momentum continues, and I wish everybody well. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn the Duncannon Borough Council meeting of December 2017, the last one of the year.
Second. Give it to Roger. I've spoken enough this evening.
Motion by Mr. Epley, a second by Mr. Williams, to adjourn the final Borough Council meeting 2017. Any further discussion? All in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.